Right, hi everyone. So today we'll be talking about how to play position for Shadow Shaman in the offlane. This game that I'm about to show was played at around rank 2000 Immortal in the Southeast Asia region. Right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is to understand your lane matchup. So I'm a Shadow Shaman and I'm laning with a Pangolier, and we are against a PL and a Grimstroke. So in general, there are three types of lanes. There's a kill lane with really high kill potential, or it's a lane where with lower kill potential but you can harass the enemy very well, or the last type of lane is a lane where it's just completely lost and you can do neither of the first two things. So as a Shadow Shaman, you have one of the highest base damage and armor in the whole game as a support at level 1, so that means that you are really good at trading. So that already means that this kind of lane, compared to well, in addition to Pango's Swashbuckle, has a really high amount of burst damage. So this is a lane that can kill the enemy core and support really easily. So this is going to be either a kill lane or a harass lane. So if your lane is either a kill or harass lane, it just means that you want to play very aggressively. So because I know that, I'm going to start harassing PL and Grimstone very hard with Ether Shock. And it's very important to know that Ether Shock deals a lot of damage and is single target. And it's usually much better to harass the enemy core, like PL, because he's going to have limited regen. If you look at how much regen he only has 3 tangos. He does not have a self. Neither Grimstroke has a self, but if we manage to burn all of this regen, the PO will be forced to buy more cells, which is going to delay his power threads or any other items. So I'm going to focus all of my harass on PO as much as possible. I'm going to use Ether Shock, and I'm going to hit him as many times as possible. And notice that I use my first Ether Shock on PO instead of Grimstroke. So I'm just going to try and get as many hits on the PL as possible throughout the laning stage. And we're going to see that in just a bit. Try and get as many shots on PL. Apologies for the sound. Yep, Ether Shock him a second time, so now PL is like roughly half HP and he only still has 2 tangos. Right, so that's the first thing that you should think about when going into the lane. Harassing, um, is it a harass lane, is it a kill lane, and if so, then you need to play aggressively. Right, so this comes to the second point that I want to talk about. So if you are playing in a kill lane or a harass lane, your positioning whenever you launch every auto attack and spell is very important, because that will determine if the creeps aggro you, and it will also affect how the enemy support lands auto attacks on you, which is essentially the bread and butter of last hitting, of harassing. So the big concept here is what I call playing on the left or right side of the lane. And this is very important because, like I said, it will determine how you draw aggro from any source. So if we look at the lane state right now, I am half HP, I only have 2 tangos. Grimstroke is full HP, PL is half. So I'm the main hero that's doing the harassing. Pango wants to last hit everything, so he can't really be hitting PL. And I actually took a lot of damage early on trying to spam Ether Shock and auto attacks on PL. So I'm half HP. So right now, in this current moment, it's not a very good idea for me to like man fight and be really aggressive and like stand like right here to try and trade a PL. I need to wait for my tangos to regen me a little bit more HP before I can go back in. And so that's why I'm playing on the left side of the lane right now. I already know that Grimstroke is on the right side because a few seconds ago he was in plain sight. And if I were to stand on the right side and trade with him, he would kill me with his Stroke of Fate and his HP advantage because he just hasn't taken a lot of damage. So it's very important for me to play on the opposite side of the enemy support and core when you are low. That is extremely important. Play on the opposite side if you are low, or well, in general you should be playing on the opposite side anyway. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna avoid Grimstroke hitting me at all costs because I am very low HP and I need to eat my tangos before I can go back in and harass. So that's what I'm gonna do. And you can see what Grimstroke tried to do. He tries to hit the Pango, and Pango just runs back. And if Grimstroke were to go further in on the left side, he would run into a 2 versus 1 situation because me and Pango would be closer to him, and Grimstroke will be aggroing the friendly creeps that are on the right. So this is a very unfavorable trading position for Grimstroke because the friendly creeps are very close to him, or my friendly creeps are close to him. So what I'm doing here is just completely avoiding Grimstroke as much as possible. right? So now is the time where I'm more than 50%, I'm roughly 60% HP because I've eaten 2 tangos right now. So now I feel much more comfortable to trade. And notice how I'm trading right now. I am on the right side of the lane to try and trade Brimstroke. If I were on the left side, like right here, for example, right here to trade, I will be aggroing all of these creeps, these enemy creeps, and I'll be taking a lot of damage because, each auto attack by the creeps is 21, 2 hits is 42, that's like almost the same as one auto attack from an enemy hero. So now I'm playing on the right to engineer a 1 versus 1 situation on Grimstroke. That is how important it is to play on the left or right. Now that I have more HP, you can go and 1v1 the enemy support. And I don't get hit by any of the creeps, so I don't take any unnecessary damage. Right, so this goes on for a little bit. One thing to note is that as Shadow Shaman, you should not be scared of having 1 versus 1 trades against most enemy supports, just because your stats are that good. And as you can see, he tried to kill his Pango's Courier, which he managed to do, but he is going to lose like 500 HP, and he actually ends up dying for this. Unfortunate that I end up dying, but he does die, and if you look at the net worths, Pango is the same amount as PO, and I'm actually ahead of Grimstroke in terms of net worth right now. Right, and this whole thing is going to continue for the next 5 minutes. And right now I Tranquil Boots, and you're going to see how all of this, the snowballing of all of these mistakes lead up to PL having a huge net worth disadvantage. If you look at PL's items right now, he has no more regen at all. And Grimstroke actually has to buy some other stuff for him. He has to buy extra self and tangos. All of this is net worth that's going to PL instead of him. Grimstroke is doing the right thing definitely by buying regen for PL. Nonetheless, he's using resources on the PL and not himself. So the same thing continues. I'm going to harass Grimstroke. And because I have Tranquil Boots and even if I did not have Tranquil Boots, like I said, I would not be afraid of trading. Because I have just a superior base stats advantage. And as you see here, Grimstroke is going to try and go on us. And he ends up dying again. And we actually end up getting a double kill on PO. So at this point, the laning stage is already secured. Yep, PO dies. And all of that is really a culmination of all of the small mistakes that happened before. PL has no regen at all. He has a magic wand, but he ran out of regen really fast, and even though Grimstroke had a self, he took it back and he forgot to use it on PL, so PL was really low. So that is essentially how you secure the laning stage in the first 3 minutes of the game. If you look at the net worths right now, PL is like, roughly 250 gold behind Pango, and I am actually almost double net worth of the Grimstroke. So the laning stage is secured for the Pango. Okay, so I'm just going to continue doing whatever I've been doing for the past 3 minutes. The next big moment kind of happens, the next big instructive moment kind of happens at 6 minutes. As we see us harassing PO right here. Let me just skip forward to 6 minutes. Okay, so it's gonna be nighttime right now because it's 5 minutes, and I'm gonna actually bump into Grimstroke sooner or later, and I'm going to see that he actually plants a ward. Pango actually, you can't see on the chat, but Pango pinged out the ward that Grimstroke had. Grimstroke was walking by this part of the map under the friendly observer ward, and Pango pings out. If you just saw the minimap, Pango will ping out that Grimstroke has an observer ward. Yeah, either me or him pings it out. So we know that Grimstroke has an observer ward, and I'm gonna encounter him right here. So I encounter Grimstroke and I actually check his items, and I realize that he does not have an observer ward. If you just look at player's perspective over here. Yeah, I click on Grimstroke for a brief moment. He does not have a ward. So I know that he planted a ward somewhere in the area. I know that it's either on the ice spot, which is a possibility. It could be in the river right here. It might even be here actually, or it could be. It's really I don't know where he planted it. It's a shot in the dark because he did it in the fall. But what I do know is that he definitely did plant a ward. So I immediately buy a sentry ward with my courier, and this is a very important tip that you guys can apply in all of your games regardless of which bracket you are in. So just notice where I plant the sentry ward. I'm gonna plant it on the stairs. I'm not gonna plant it on the eye spot right here, because planting it on eye spot will be a mistake. Once you hit level 4, all heroes in the game have a flying courier, and that means you can use the flying courier to deward high ground if necessary. If you were to plant a sentry wall on the high ground, the sentry wall only has a radius of 900, so you will only be able to see perhaps up to this tree right here. However, because I planted the sentry wall on the low ground, the sentry wall has a much bigger radius, and I can use my flying courier to deward the eye spot, and I get this additional range, which actually covers the ward that Grimstroke planted. For some of you who might be watching who are in lower MMR, where people just plant the ward on the eye spot anyway, this tactic is still going to be useful because you can always use your flying courier to deward, or if your team has some abilities that give vision on high ground like Bloodseeker Blood, right? You can actually cast it on the eye spot to give you vision. So this is a very good habit to just inculcate. Alright, so that's more or less the early game. The next thing that I want to talk about is in the mid game, your game plan as a Shadow Shaman. So we'll just skip forward to about 10 minutes or so. Right, so mid game as Shadow Shaman is fairly simple. You want to use your ultimate Mass Serpent wards like a hand of Midas. You can think about it like that. It's a very good concept to have. And what that means is that, like a hand of Midas, you want to use it as many times as possible whenever it's off cooldown. Well, use it every time it's off cooldown as soon as possible. You can think of Mass Serpent wards like that, because Mass Serpent wards gives you a lot of damage and it allows you to push towers very quickly. So, the mid game plan of Shadow Shaman is just to drop Mass Serpent wards as many times as possible at a tower, so that you can get towers, which gives your entire team gold, which is always good. So right here I'm gonna stack, and there's gonna be a big moment in the game, a critical moment in the mid game that happens within the next minute. So we're gonna see that Daya is gonna go for a fight here. Let's just put this on Radiant Vault. So Puck is gonna use Dream Coil. Puck is gonna use Dream Coil, and all of us see it. And this is a very critical moment in the game. Puck uses Dream Coil, but the Daya do not get any kills from that usage of Dream Coil. This is absolutely huge because it means that they have lost their ability to teamfight. If you look at Daya's heroes, they have a average amount of wave clear with Illusory Orb and Grimstroke, Stroke of Fate, so they can kill creeps fairly fast. However, if they do not have Dream Coil, even if they kill the creeps, we can actually just dive the tower and just teamfight them without Dream Coil. So this is a huge moment in the game. I know that Dream Coil is off cooldown, so I'm gonna tell my team, okay, let's immediately push mid tower right now. We can either we have two choices. We can smoke and go for a team fight and pick off somebody important, or we can just go and push mid with Mass Serpent wards. And even though they can defend with Orb and Grimstroke first skill, they can't team fight because Coil is off cooldown. And so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I call a smoke for my team, and we actually try and run down mid. Now this is a small mistake. I should not be the first person to go in, so this is a small mistake. Ember should go in and root him. But nonetheless, we try and push mid. And I noticed that Lion is TPing in behind the tower. However, as we all know, TP takes 3 minutes, so I'm gonna kill two birds with one stone, and I'm gonna drop wards and block him in as well at the same time. So I'm gonna drop wards. I get stunned, but it's a bit too late. I drop wards and he gets ward trapped. And if we just look at the HP of the tower starts with about 1121 HP. And dropping wards at this point in time is going to deal a significant amount of damage. If Puck had Dream Coil right here, he could get 3-man Dream Coil and we probably would just lose the fight. So we just look at the tower HP. We don't eventually we don't kill the tower even with these wards. The creeps kill the wards, and that loses some damage on the tower. But nonetheless, the tower is dropped to very, very low. And if we see, the tower drops to, we just dealt like 1000 damage to the tower. So while the tower does not die, the tower is within deny range, and any push that Radiant wants to do after this is going to get the mid tower very quickly. And the mid tower is the most important tower in the whole game because it opens up the jungle for die a triangle, and it opens up the the outpost, the path to the outpost since the tower is dead, because enemies can't TP. And so yeah, that is roughly the mid game and early game plan of playing a Shadow Shaman. Just focusing on harassing very well, and also using wards every single time they are off cooldown.